While the brain constitutes only 2% of the volume of your entire body, it consumes 20% of the energy.
Yeah.
That's just in steady state.
Amazing. It's running hot.
It's running hot.
Yeah, okay.
And it needs energy to do that.
Yes.
And the energy comes from our circulation, from the blood, right?
Okay.
And from our breathing. So we need air.
Right.
We need to breathe, and we need nutrients.
Welcome to Beyond Lab Walls, a podcast from the Salk Institute, a nonprofit foundational research institute bound by collaboration and curiosity, where scientists come together to ask, what if? The Salk Institute stands as a landmark monument to science overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Within the iconic Louis Kahn-designed architecture, scientists tackle global questions in aging, agriculture, disease, nutrition, sleep, memory, and so much more. Here at Salk, we're unlocking the secrets of life itself and sharing them beyond lab walls.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Beyond Lab Walls, a podcast from the Salk Institute. I'm Salk's President Gerald Joyce, and today we're going to be talking about brain health, about cognitive brain health as part of Salk's Year of Brain Health. We're so lucky to have the brains we have as a species. I mean, the human brain is just one of evolution's greatest inventions. It gives us such a rich intellectual and emotional life, but we weren't quite evolved to live as long as we do. And so there's a challenge in keeping that wonderful brain fit over the many decades, the 7 to 8 decades that is now average lifespan in the United States. So that's why we're focusing on the issue of brain health through a long lifespan, cognitive brain health. We're looking at all different aspects of this, what you can do to maintain brain health through a long lifespan. So cardiovascular health, metabolic health, immune health, exercise, which we're going to be talking about today, building cognitive strength, good sleep habits, and so on. We've heard of all these sort of recipes for good brain health, but we want to dig deeper as we are through this entire series and through this year into, why are these good things and how can we learn more about them? And that's, of course, what we're doing here at the Salk Institute. It is my pleasure to have as a special guest, Rusty Gage, a world-renowned neuroscientist and my predecessor as president at the Salk Institute. Rusty's had just continues to have a remarkable scientific career. One of his incredible breakthroughs was the surprising finding that we continue to make new neurons in our brain through our entire life into adulthood. People thought that wasn't the case, but Rusty and his colleagues showed that is possible. This is a process that's sometimes referred to as neurogenesis, and hopefully Rusty can tell us a bit more about that. So we're fortunate to have Rusty with us today. There's lots of things we could talk about, Rusty, but I'm hoping, because I know you're also an expert in this aspect of brain health, we want to talk about the relationship between good, healthy exercise and good, healthy brains over a long lifespan. So let's just kind of start with a general question. So we always hear this, exercise. It's good for lots of things, but we hear that exercise is important for good brain health. But what's behind that? Tell us some of the biology behind the connection between good exercise and good brain health.
Well, one of the things that is strikingly interesting to people is that while the brain constitutes only 2% of the volume of your entire body, it consumes 20% of the energy.
Yeah.
That's just in steady state.
Amazing. It's running hot.
Yeah,
okay.
And it needs energy to do that.
Yes.
And the energy comes from our circulation, from the blood, right?
Okay.
And from our breathing. So we need air.
Right.
We need to breathe, and we need nutrients to keep going.
Okay.
And the oxygen that we're breaking in breaks down the glucose that's in the blood circulating.
Okay.
And it supplies ATP, which is the source of energy.
So that's basically the food for the brain.
That's the food for the brain.
Pumped to the brain. But why exercise?
So if you exercise, your circulation increases.
Okay.
Right. And what's also remarkable are these little machines that are in every cell called mitochondria that make the energy.
Okay.
They're actually multiplying by virtue of exercise. So the more you exercise, the more energy machinery
the more
you have.
mitochondrial capacity you have,
right.
And the more you can fuel this amazing organ we have.
And you can think about it also as an acute effect of aging, go out there and do one series, a bout of education. That's good. That's good for you. But the really important thing is the long-term maintenance of it, because that increases the efficiency of utilizing all those nutrients in your brain.
Very good.
It sets you at a higher level.
Yeah, and that is the theme of this entire series, is what can we do over our entire lifespan
That's right.
to maintain good brain health for a lifespan. So let me ask you, I mean, you look fit. I mean, what do you do to exercise?
Well, I try to balance things out.
Okay.
I every day I stretch and do some light lifting to strengthen my muscles a little bit.
Okay, stretching is exercise?
Stretching is definitely a form of exercise.
Okay.
And you can do it lying down, sitting down, anyway, just stretching out your muscles is using any kind of movement at all is a form of exercise.
Okay.
It's increasing blood flow. It's increasing the utilization, movement.
Does texting count?
Texting, it's all an ingredient. You want to strengthen your fingers for sure.
A little.
Yeah. But then I do aerobic exercise.
Oh, so you do aerobics. So what kind of aerobics?
I run.
Oh, good.
And
that gets everything going. Very good. Muscles,
on a regular
heart rate.
basis, I try to put in 3 to 4 miles a day.
Okay. 3 to 4 miles a day.
Yes.
Pretty much every day.
Every day.
Good for you. Now, I remember you telling me years ago that you used to be a kickboxer. Am I right about that?
When I was younger.
When you were
I was
younger?
significantly younger,
Okay.
yes. I did it a lot.
Competitive kickboxing,
I did,
right?
but I did it a lot of different sports. But for a period of time, I was a martial artist.
Martial arts. Wow, that
yeah.
sounds intense. Yeah. So that's full body exercise.
That's
That's
full body
agility.
exercise.
That's strength, and that's aerobics. So,
Right. But I should say the important part there is no matter what exercise you're doing, to do that exercise well, or to do that sport well, you need to be in shape. You need to do chronic exercises to get yourself ready to be able to do that well.
Okay.
So it's not just the impact of doing that sport, but it's preparing yourself for it.
Okay, so you can't just be, a once a month athlete. Then you're not an athlete. Okay, so I've already talked about this remarkable discovery that you and your colleagues made, that previously people thought that essentially the number of neurons you have in your brain is finite, and as you get to adulthood, show's over. But you showed that's not the case. And then there's this term called neurogenesis. Can you explain what neurogenesis is and what we now think about neurons over the lifespan?
So neurogenesis is a process by which a stem cell, a primitive cell, becomes a neuron, becomes a functioning neuron.
So what is it before it's a neuron?
It's what's called a stem cell.
It's a
pluripotent cell that has the opportunity to give rise to lots of different things. Could be anything. Then it goes to a next phase where it becomes a neural progenitor cell.
It's on the road.
It's on the road.
Okay.
And then it finally gets to a fully functioning neuron that makes all its connections with its environment.
Okay.
So it is a process of maturation. And this is what happens during development. Your brain is being born. And
you mean before we're born?
Before we're born.
This is happening to basically build the brain.
We all thought that after we're born that there's very little or if any quote neurogenesis. All that's a developmental process.
Okay. Yeah, I remember learning, in med school that the neurons are there, and all that happens sort of after young childhood, it's just making connections, but it's not making neurons. But tell us about new neurons.
Yes. So we discovered that in one area in particular, so it's not everywhere in the brain, but in one area in particular called the hippocampus.
Okay.
There are stem cells that are retained in that area throughout life. And these stem cells can give rise to new neurons.
Even like in your 60s, 70s, 80s?
It turns out, even in the last couple months, there have been a few papers showing that in healthy individuals,
which is what we're talking about.
Yeah. You do have an increase in neurogenesis. You have neurogenesis occurring in the 60s and 70s.
So what does the hippocampus do in the brain?
So the hippocampus is a structure right here, we call the temporal portion of the lobes.
Kind of behind the ear. Okay.
Behind the ear. And this is an area of the brain that's involved in the acquisition of new information and the retention of this information, storing it.
So memory, basically.
Memory and retrieval. So your
memory and retrieval.
So your ability to recall something.
It's like our hard drive. Huh?
This is your hard drive.
Okay. But we make new neurons on the hard drive.
But it also is involved in the acquisition of new memories, as well as the hard drive.
Okay. I see.
Survival,
yeah. So
an important feature.
So if we're making new neurons there and maybe in some other places, but not everywhere, I mean, how do we fit it? Because our skull doesn't change size.
So, it turns out that there have been some volumetric measurements of the effects of exercise.
Yeah.
And it turns out you can increase the size of just this one structure by 15%.
15%.
Over a period of time with chronic exercise.
But how does it fit inside our skull if it goes up by 15%?
Yeah, so it's a small.
It's a small area.
It's a small.
So it's 15% of a few percent.
Exactly right. Okay. Exactly right. So if for example in this structure just loosely have about 2 million brain cells, you've got hundreds of brain cells, but in this one area you had about 2 million. You're adding several more, 100,000 more cells, and there's room for that.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah, I don't think people have that general concept that we can keep making new neurons, but only if we're healthy. I think that was the key thing you said.
That's the key, because in disease we do know that this ability to generate neurons from stem cells, that's when it drops off with cognitive decline.
Okay, and these new neurons actually help cognitive function. They're not just like there; they actually do good work for us.
They do, and there's experimental evidence clearly looking at individuals that have less neurogenesis.
Yeah,
they perform less well in task.
Okay.
And there's actually,
and this is people, not
this people,
other animals.
And what's really interesting about this is that it's still an area of intense investigation. What exactly is being done?
Okay.
But what these new neurons do is they help you to make distinctions between things that are very closely related to each other.
Okay.
So it's making these fine distinctions in life.
This is very encouraging to our audience that that we're still building our brains as long as we stay healthy. So I want to talk about a very special molecule that you have studied quite a bit called brain-derived neurotropic factor, BDNF.
Yes.
All right. Without getting too technical, my understanding is that it's a protein, and when you exercise, it goes up in amount, and when it goes up, it helps neurogenesis. So can you talk about BDNF? What is BDNF and how does it do
is a
this?
protein in neurons and expressed in neurons and some in astrocytes.
So it's in neurons, not in muscle.
That's right.
But when you exercise, it goes up. So
it goes up, and when it's increased, what it does is it facilitates or it helps the connections that are made between neurons. So you can actually increase the number of connections between neurons. And think about that with regards to neurogenesis, because as these new cells are coming in, part of their job is to find how to make new connections. And BDNF facilitates that.
This is a good point, I think. So it's not just making new neurons, but they've got to find good connections.
Exactly.
And BDNF is sort of the facilitator of good connecting.
It is, and it also is what we call a survival factor. It helps cells survive and to maintain their integrity for longer periods of time.
So when neurons are well connected, do they survive better, or do they survive better and therefore can be well connected?
I think it's the better way to think about it is the former, which is that BDNF facilitates the connections. That increase in connections facilitates survival.
Very interesting, because the brain sort of nurtures the connected part of itself. But why does BDNF go up when you exercise? This seems like brain here, glutes down here,
Yeah. So this is a little more biology.
Yeah, don't go too deep, but but there is a connection that is understood, at least to some extent.
Not fully understood, but it's believed that there's circulation in the blood that gets into the brain and activates the gene or BDNF to make more of it, to make more of the protein.
Okay.
So, and a search is underway now to try to find what those circulating factors
including in
are.
your lab, right? This is something you and others are studying.
Trying to find out what it is that's activated.
You want BDNF in a pill, right? Someday, or at least to support our BDNF axis,
and I think
for brain function.
Fundamentally, the more you understand mechanistically about how to make cells function in a healthy, way, the better tools you have to facilitate that.
Very cool. This is very encouraging that there's a real molecular pathway between exercise and cognitive brain health that connects through neurogenesis. So there's this other molecule that's been, I think, kind of in the news a lot lately, very recently, called GPLD1. Again, we don't want to get too technical. I'm not even going to say what that stands for because it's kind of a long name. But my understanding about GPLD1 is that it also goes up in exercise, but it's actually made in the liver, not in the brain. So when you exercise, there's some signaling that goes to the liver, GPLD1 goes up, And then GPLD1, it's not clear if it connects all the way to neurogenesis, but it helps protect sort of the blood vessels and what's called the blood-brain barrier. Again, without getting too technical, what's that story?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. And I'll just say in a global sense, what it tells us immediately and what we've known for a while is that the brain is connected to the rest of the body, and the rest of the body affects the brain as well.
Makes sense.
It's all one system. So here we have a protein being made in the liver, gets into the bloodstream, circulates into the blood, and binds to proteins or receptors on the inside of the blood wall.
On the blood wall in the brain.
The blood vessels go through. This protein goes in there, binds to some receptors on the inside.
Okay.
That activation does something that we don't know yet.
Yeah.
But among them is to increase neurogenesis.
Oh, it does increase neurogenesis.
That was a discovery that was made 5 years ago.
Okay.
in fact. And
because it's made
we don't
healthier.
know.
So we don't know how it does
We
that.
don't know that. And
Okay.
and I'll just be very speculative at this point.
That's okay.
Maybe maybe one of its ways is through this activation of the BDNF.
Oh,
So
these two could actually
they could be connected because this might be the factor that stimulates the BDNF to upregulate. There's not good evidence for that, but I'm just trying to give you a feel for how do you think about this? How do you go after
this term, blood-brain barrier. Am I correct in saying that this isn't a wall? There's not like a membrane. Well, there's kind of a membrane, but there's not like a hard wall. Essentially, the blood-brain barrier is the interface between these blood vessels and the cells of the brain. Is that the right way to think about it?
And the purpose is the brain is so important in terms of its function is we want to filter out any toxins that may be in our blood and not let them get into the brain.
Right. We protect our brain from
by
all
building
the weird
this
stuff in the world.
It's a filter. Think of it as a filter.
Okay.
So molecules only of a certain size or a certain structure can get in, and the rest of them are filtered out.
Okay, I'm glad we have that.
So you can imagine that with age, if the blood-brain barrier begins to break down, you're going to start getting toxins.
You could let
brain.
toxic molecules into your brain, and then that could obviously do
another
damage.
reason why you want to retain the strength of that blood-brain barrier and this molecule we've been talking about.
So exercise can strengthen your blood-brain barrier, which protects you from some of the nasty molecules that are in the world.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, a really cool thing about being humans is we could eat almost anything. It's just amazing how broad our tolerance is for food. And we will be talking with a Salk faculty member, Jamie Blum, who studies that.
Yeah.
But the brain needs special protection. So let's come back to exercise a bit. So as you know, at Salk, we there's these kind of general statements one can make. Exercise is good for you, but at Salk and in your lab, we like to think about mechanism. Like, why is it, and you just gave two very nice examples. Why is it that this particular healthy behavior, whether it's exercise or good sleep or diet, why is it that it helps brain health? What's the mechanism behind that, right? So, because if we can understand the mechanism, we can better tell people exactly what to do and maybe think about, drug discovery opportunities. So what do you see coming next, over the next 5 years plus, 5 to 10 years, in the mechanistic understanding of the relationship between exercise and brain health?
Yeah, no, I think we here at the Salk really have this sense that it's important for us to understand the mechanism, the molecular, and really the details of how things work.
Yeah.
And this question that you're asking right now is at the core of many things that we care about. And we care about it, as you said, in people and on individual. We care about it at the individual level.
Okay.
And so I want to know about how your brain,
my brain,
based on your activities, and what you're doing.
I'm not going to give you a sample though. I mean, how are you going to do this at the individual level?
This is quite remarkable.
Okay.
We can take a skin biopsy from you right now.
I'll give you skin, but I'm not going to give you a piece of my brain.
But I can turn that skin directly into a neuron that is like very similar to the neurons that's functioning in your brain at this point.
Okay.
Then I can wait months, or after you have an exercise experience, train for 6 months, I can take another biopsy from you
and see how I'm progressing or regressing
in your brain.
But
physically.
as a
and we can look at the molecular changes that occur,
far out.
any reprogramming of things that have happened in the cells. And it's not just the neurons. We can look at the other cells as well.
The other cells that help the neurons in the brain?
Yeah, I think we here at the Salk have a variety of investigators looking at other brain cells, not just neurons, but glial cells as well.
Astrocytes,
endothelial cells,
yeah.
Parasites. There's so much of these.
I mean, this sounds like alchemy. I mean, it sounds like more than alchemy. Alchemy is, lead into gold. You're taking skin and turning it into neurons that aren't any old neurons. They're tightly analogous to the neurons that are actually in my brain.
That's right.
And as the neurons in my brain change, the neurons that you can make from my skin samples change accordingly.
Yeah, and this is
How do you do this?
This is new. This is new work that's been underway just in the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
So it's a recent discovery here.
I mean, what's the magic? How do you turn like skin cells into neurons? That are my neurons.
Think about it this way: you have a skin cell in a dish, and it has its nature, its identity of who it is. Right?
Yeah.
And this is genetic underpinning of who it is.
Okay.
What we do is we introduce molecules to it, which open up the possibilities. We call them the transcription sites in these cells, and then we provide a special set of molecules to those open sites, and that turns them into another cell.
Wow.
We've had to work on it to figure out what molecules they are.
Yeah.
And it's a process that's really expanding throughout the world now. So a lot of people in the labs throughout the world are coming up with new recipes for making cells dopamine neurons or serotonergic neurons. So it's an emerging field.
So I guess it isn't like alchemy. It's more like you're changing the clothes of the cell, but it still like has its genetic identity.
That's
now it's got the clothes of a neuron rather than the clothes of a skin cell.
But let me say this about basic science. We stand on the shoulders of all the giants in developmental biology who defined the molecular pathways of how the cell during development,
how a neuron gets made in the first place.
And we use those same chemicals to switch the cells over from one fate to another.
But those developmental biologists I can't think that they imagined you could actually just hop from one mature cell type to another. You had to come up the development pathway.
I've read about this. We've all written about this, and how much did they really anticipate this? And there were some
imagine this. Not as science fiction writers, but scientists.
some
because it's pretty close to science fiction, but this you do. And then my understanding is you are actually taking skin samples from patients.
We take them from healthy individuals, from young individuals, from old individuals, and diseased individuals.
Disease meaning people that have cognitive decline at some level versus people that don't have cognitive decline.
Exactly. And another population that we're particularly interested in are resilient patients. These are people that are 100 years and older that are cognitively normal. Within the range of cognition. And I want to know why that is.
What's their magic?
What's their magic? That's as important as seeing what's not right in the cognitively impaired. So
fantastic.
It's a great era of investment time right now.
Good luck. I mean, this sounds like it's absolutely on the mark for trying to understand how to maintain cognitive brain health through life, is to understand how it happens or doesn't happen, and then drill in, as we say.
I'm particularly excited about what we call these longitudinal studies, where we take a set of individuals and put them through, sample them before the trial, and then have them go through exercise or some sort of series of experiences, and then capture them at a later time point, and see if we can really understand the mechanism of how.
Sign me up. You can take some skin. Start now before it's too late. I want to know how I'm doing. So another kind of, trademark of how we do science here at Salk is that we're very cross-disciplinary, right? So there are no departments here at Salk. All of the scientists here at Salk are kind of in the mix together, and we share ideas across expertise. I think particularly for the issue of brain health, we can talk about exercise as we're doing today, but say a bit how, exercise connects to all these other things that matter for brain health, like metabolic health, well, you talked a bit about cardiovascular health, delivering the supplies to the brain, like immune health, sleep, social health, good social interactions and so on. How do you see these other pieces connecting with just the exercise part?
Yeah, it goes in two directions. So let's just think about it this way. I'm going to tell you how important it is that when you exercise, you're going to increase your heart rate because you're going to be breathing more. You're going to getting the blood is circulating more, and so the periphery is going to be accessing the brain directly. But the brain is also having an impact on these organs. So there's feedback from the brain to the rest of the organs. The acute phase is amplified by not just the heart, but also, you've said it yourself, the liver. Where is this molecule coming from? It's liver.
Right.
And many organs are going to benefit from the exercise themselves. They will benefit by increasing their mitochondria, their energy sources. And if they can be conditioned, their impact on the brain will be improved. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So the body, of course, is feeding to, talking to the brain. The brain talks back to the body. And within the body, by the body we mean outside the brain, those parts are talking to each other, and it's all in the gamish.
Right, and you need the external sources of nutrition and energy sources.
The diet part, obviously.
And you want your heart working well. You want your liver working well, so your brain will work better.
Very good. Okay, well that's the your brain health in a nutshell. All these things connect, and so we want all these good habits. So let's drill back, onto exercise. So I'm not asking you for medical advice, but as a subject matter expert, what's your recommendation? What should people do to with regard to exercise to maintain cognitive brain health? And we hear all different things. It's like, you should do aerobics, you should do strength training, you should do agility training. What's the recommendation, Professor Gage?
Right. Not just my recommendation, but the emerging consensus among experts is that you really need to have a balanced plan. There needs to be, as I said, you need to do stretching exercise to keep limber. Because for one thing, if you're doing exercise, you don't want to get hurt. Then you won't be able to
stop exercising.
So you want to do things in moderation, especially at the beginning. But stretching, breathing exercises are wonderful.
Breathing exercise. Just oxygen
is so important to feeding these mitochondria, and making them work. They're dependent on oxygen for doing it. So getting deep breaths, getting a lot of oxygen, eating right is just absolutely important. But stretching exercise, balancing exercise, just simply balancing. So as well as aerobic exercise like running, but it should be all of them, and not picking one versus the other.
Interesting, yeah.
But I call it a balanced portfolio of exercise.
A balanced portfolio. It's your investment in your brain health is a balanced portfolio. Okay, a little stock, a little bonds,
yeah.
Because I think many people have a set exercise pattern.
Yeah.
And they think, I'm doing my exercise, whether it's a treadmill or a rowing machine or yoga, and all these are good things. But what I'm hearing from you is, it's better to mix up the portfolio than to just do one thing again and again.
Yeah, and it's also more fun. And it's more interesting.
That's good.
It's more interesting.
Yes. There's nothing more boring to me than running. So although it's good for
a long time period, that gets really boring. So split it up. But that's the cognitive part of it. But it's also better for you.
Okay.
To do these, balancing exercises are not going to wear you out, but they're so important, especially as we age.
Okay, mix it up, and don't just be a Sunday morning exerciser. It's something you really want to do. Yeah, because you said that before.
I couldn't say that enough, and that is that you really need to find a regime, find a system that works for you, but do it on a consistent basis.
Okay.
For a long time, not just periodically. And what that means is don't do too much at any one time.
Because you don't want to hurt yourself.
You don't want to hurt yourself, and you don't want to sort of fall off because you set your bar too high at the beginning.
So what happens if you can't do it? What if you've had injury, or you just have lost mobility? You just can't exercise. What do we say to those people?
Yeah, no. So we think about this actually a lot, and I talk to other experts about this. There are ways in the hospital, even if people are in bed, they can do some isometric exercises, some low impact exercises. They do help a little bit. I think the future, if you want my thoughts about the future,
we want to hear what's coming next.
The goal is to target specific molecules that affect specific cells in the brain, so that in a case where a person cannot exercise, we would be able to pharmacologically manipulate those areas of the brain or the body, which will enhance in a similar way to what you would have had as exercise. And people called it exercise until
to simulate the molecular effects of exercise,
right,
with a
pharmacology.
drug.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing possibility.
It's not here now.
Yeah.
But I there's a lot of people out there that are working on this diligently in laboratories.
Yes,
we are. Others are too. But it's going to be This is one of the benefits of basic research, is that you understand something well enough that you can target very specifically.
Yeah, well said. And we want to do this for real. There is a lot of, as you know, kind of, I would call it junk science out there, sort of in the pseudoscience community, that do this, do that, take this supplement, and it's going to do what exercise does for you. We're not there yet, are we?
We're not there.
Okay. So for now, find your way to do a balanced exercise routine. If you're limited, then you can still do isometric and other kinds of things. And then, but the day will come when maybe you'll still be able to do a lot of physical exercise, but you'll also have the benefit of
and be able to amplify it and build on it.
Yeah, wild. Okay. Rusty, thank you. Fascinating conversation. Thanks for sharing all of your expertise with our audience and on the importance of the relationship between exercise and cognitive brain health. This is what we're focusing on this year. All the different things that we can do, the healthy behaviors we can do, exercise being one very powerful example through our lifespan to improve our health span. Because as you heard, we want to think about the mechanism behind, these good behaviors. We want to provide guidance, to all of you, so that that you do these things. Nothing's more important than maintaining us, what is actually inside our brain, our cognition. I think this is a really important series that we've been putting together this year. So stay tuned. There'll be additional podcasts in this series. If you'd like to learn more, you can go to salk.edu/brainhealth for this and future podcast series, as well as information about all the amazing research that's going on here at Salk, including in the lab of Professor Rusty Gage. Thank you all for listening.
Beyond Lab Walls is a production of the Salk Office of Communications. Subscribe to this podcast to hear more exciting Salk science stories. Our monthly newsletter and seasonal magazine, Inside Salk, can also bring the lab to you, spotlighting our staff and scientists and the discoveries that are only possible at Salk. Visit salk.edu to learn more about the world within these walls.